All right, let's look at rent vesting becoming a really big thing at the moment, especially when it's hard for people to get into property. The idea is you rent in an area you want to live and you buy an investment elsewhere that's a little bit cheaper, get you into the market and you're still living the lifestyle you want to live. Or you can't really afford where you want to live, so buy somewhere else, at least you're still in the market. All right, rent vesting, let's split this in half. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use Newstead as an example. So on this side here, you buy in Newstead. This side here, you rent Newstead and you buy somewhere else. All right, let's have a look at buying in Newstead. Let's do a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 1-bedroom apartment, and as crazy as this sounds, it's about 1.2 mil. So 1.2 mil to buy in Newstead, plus there's going to be costs, stamp duty, government fees. Let's call those 45,000. Plus, we're going to borrow up to 95%, so you can put in the smallest deposit possible. What with that is going to come LMI. LMI 95% at this value probably sits about 30k. So to buy that place in Newstead, you're looking at 1.275 mil. Okay, 1.257 mil. 1.275 mil to buy in Newstead with all costs. Now we're going to borrow 95%, and that is 1.140 mil. So basically, buying a place in Newstead for 1.2 mil with all the costs, borrowing 95%, you'd think you only need a 5% deposit, but it's a lot more. To cover those, 135k. That's the deposit you require. As you can see, it's a bit more than 5%. A lot more than 5. 135,000. And let's use today's rates. Let's use a rate of 5.5. That's where we're at, but obviously next week we could go up, or we probably will go up 0.25, and then May, all the banks are predicting another rise, will end up at 6%. For this example, 5.5. The repayments per month are 6,653 per fortnight. What do we got? 3,370, and per week, important for this scenario, 1,535 per week. Obviously on top of that we've got rates and everything, but we'll talk about that later. So that's if you buy in Newstead. Cost you $1,535 a week, and you need a 135k deposit. Now, that is up there and tough. That a lot of people don't have. So the idea of rent vesting came about. What do we do then? We're going to rent in Newstead. We still want to live in Newstead, go to swanky cafes and have your lattes and stuff, your avo on toast. So we'll do the 2-bedroom, 2-bath and 1, and what does that rent for? Let's do 800 per week. That's probably on the low side, but you can get ones for 800. All right, and then you're going to buy an investment property somewhere else. Let's say 600k, and don't start going, oh, you can't get anything with 600k. You can. You can go to you can go regional, you can go Adelaide, you can go other areas. This is just to get you in the market. At least then you're still in the property market, and if the growth's going to happen that they say is going to happen, at least you've still got a stake of that growth. So let's say you purchase an investment, buying one for 600k. You've got all your usual costs. You've got stamp duty, government fees, legals. Let's just call them, what is that, 25k. And then you've got LMI, because we're going to borrow 95%. Now, normally for investment loans they were 90, but some banks have got up to 95. So let's do that. There's probably 10k in lender's mortgage insurance. So to buy your 600k investment, you're looking at 635k. How's my math? Good? Good. Stay with me. And you're going to borrow 95%. 95% of 600 is 570. So for this scenario here, your deposit required is only 65k. So we look at these two examples. You got 135 here. Here, you're getting into the property market. Yeah, I get it's a lower value, but you're still getting in and you're living in your fancy area and you are paying rent, someone else's mortgage, I know that. Thanks for telling me. But you only need a 65k deposit to get into that investment property. Let's look at repayments. Let's say that the rental income is, what's that? Let's call that 600 a week. It's probably more. 600 a week, take out some property management fees of say $60 a week. So say you end up with $540 a week. And you've got your rates and everything, which we didn't include here. We haven't included there. So basically, let's have a look at this. You're getting $540 in the pocket. What are the repayments on the loan of $570? Let's use 6%. Interest only. Investment loans, majority are interest only, so you can get the max tax deductibility. You can do P&I, but let's do interest only like most people do. 6%. The rates are higher for investment loans. Now, so what are the repayments on that at 6%? That's about $658 per week. How are my numbers looking? $658 per week. So that property is going to cost you $118 per week. $118 per week plus your rent. Where do we end up? $918 per week. That's how much that's going to cost you to live in Newstead renting and have a stake in the investment market at 600k. Even if you had the 135, maybe you wanted to buy two of these. One in Adelaide and one in Toowoomba. Wherever. But anyway, that's $918 per week to rent and buy an investment property. And this, you need 135k, not 65. It's going to cost you 1,535. That's basically rent vesting. Rent where you want to live, buy somewhere else. It's a pretty good idea, and I think it's going to happen more and more as people just can't save these large deposits. There you go, rent vesting. I love it.